raised a few very useful points. Yeah, she talked about society as being dynamic, as changing, and it does not only change sort of at a national level, but individually, our individual identities, our communities that we are part of, also evolve and change, and most importantly here, they mix and mingle with one another, right? So if we make chunky stew, that's of course an American dish. Maybe we're making bubur, right? We cook that bubur on low heat, we stir it very gently, and what happens? All these ingredients, they mix and they mingle, and they create something new and delicious. It might be that in this chunky stew, there are some ingredients that melt into the kuah, right? They melt into the broth. We can't find them anymore. There are other ingredients that we can take out from the stew and we can still say, ah, yes, this is a piece of meat. Yeah, but it's not how it was before it went into the stew, is it? It's changed as a result of interaction with all the other ingredients that are there inside that stew. Am I stretching this analogy too far? I think it's useful to have a mental model. And so I propose the chunky stew, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's where the United States certainly is heading. And so I think if we strip away the analogies and really examine what multiculturalism means to all of us, I think we have to have a recognition, and this is something that Isaac mentioned in his first definition. We need to acknowledge that we all have these individual identities, these communal identities, these national identities, and these are important to us, right? To some degree or another. So we don't simply want to melt them away in the melting pot so that it all just becomes one thing. Our individual identities and communal identities are what make us different and special and unique from one another. But at the same time, I think a multicultural society has to allow for the ability to keep the values that to keep the identities that we value, and to discard the identities that we do not, and most importantly, to learn from one another. And when we learn from one another, I think that implies that we mix and we mingle, we combine, we blend, we change, and we grow together. Only then do each of our bowls of stew, each of our recipes of stew, really give us something special and different. So I think that one concrete method that has allowed the United States to move in this direction, it's not perfect, we're not there yet, but we're able to move in this direction, is reflected right here in this document. So this is my birth certificate. Yeah, Robin Maller, that's my mother. Greg Khrushchevsky, that's my father there. But if you look here on this birth certificate, it records my name and very little else. Yeah? So the fact that my mother is Jewish, or that my father is Polish, or any of these other things are not recorded on the document. They are part of me. Yeah? They're, our individual identities are part of who we are, but it is not formalized and frozen, if you will, on this particular document. And that, I think, is a valuable thing. So I think that's the end of my time. And so I don't know if we're going to take questions now or later, but I'd be happy to take any questions that you have. So please do forward your comments to the moderator, and I'll try to address any questions anyone might have. So with that, I think I'll stop sharing here. All right.
Okay, Mr. Zain, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to ask you a question, and I hope you don't mind answering it.
Please.
My question is, I have read a newspaper article online dating from 2 years ago, which was from the Chief Minister of Sarawak, Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari. Okay, he said that sorry. He said that interracial marriage between the community of Sarawak has produced a hybrid generation, and it had promoted harmony within the community of Sarawak. So I would like to ask you, how true is this statement, and does it apply to the whole Malaysia, especially the peninsula as well? Can interracial marriage bolster the harmony between various races? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that question, Arjun. I think I have to confess that I'm a very big fan of interracial marriage, having been in one for the last 30 years. And I think that Sarawak does have some very unique qualities to it that are worth looking closely at. Yeah? So Sarawak, first of all, has a huge diversity of different ethnic groups. And there, I think, has been some progress in racial relations in the state that perhaps could be applied elsewhere. But I think that there's some basic restrictions that are still also found between Sarawak and Sabah. So for example, interracial marriage may be happening at a greater rate in Sarawak than elsewhere. I don't know about that for sure, but perhaps it is happening more there. But nonetheless, when a man marries a woman, the race of that particular child is set to follow the father, and so there's no change, yeah, to the racial identity of the child, right? So I think this interracial marriage is a wonderful way for us to sort of intimately become familiar with the cultures and practices of the other ethnic groups in our communities. And so I do hope that here in Malaysia we don't feel that as a barrier to our relationships with one another. Since you ask about Sarawak as compared to Semenanjung, I would say that there's a sense in which even though we are now Malaysia, we are not Malaya anymore. But I think that a lot of our paradigms about who we are as a country is still very much still stuck in Malaya. You know, in other words, that Semenanjung has not really understood the way that the country has changed as a whole by joining together with Sarawak and Sabah. So, for what it's worth, thank you for the question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zain, for the answer. I hope it answered our urgent questions. All right. I must say that the explanation and points given are very clear and interesting. Personally, I have heard about the white supremacy things, but it's just like on the surface level. But your presentation just now opened my eyes, and I'm sure that it also opened our audience's eyes to gain more knowledge in terms of multiculturalism from all over the world. And I believe that, okay, excuse me. Thank you, Mrs. Zain, for the enlightenment. And all right, moving on. As mentioned in Dato' Ramli's biography just now, I could say that he has a lot of exposures to multiculturalism as he is being involved in dancing, not only locally, but also internationally. With that being said, I am sure that our third speaker, Dato' Ramli, would have a lot to share about multiculturalism. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Dato' Ramli to give his talk on multiculturalism.
Hi, thank you very much for having me, everyone. It's really one of my, I thought one of the important things for me is to connect with as many youth young people as possible, because I think this country is dependent on you to lead it to the next stage of, well, I think opening ourselves up for exactly what we are talking at the moment. As far as your question is concerned, Azik, I've never been aware of multiculturalism, because in my previous CNN talk, I said that we've been one Malaysia right from the beginning. So I think it is really good for a civilized society eventually that, you know, laws float in a sea of ethics, morality that is not spelled out all the time. And I really think that multiculturalism is not something that you must learn in a university or in an institution, but something that is experiential. Truly, because you can learn it, you know. I mean, now we complain about United Nations, because everyone has said the right thing, but they never turun padang to really experience what it is. So you can say the right thing, really, you know, because people do think that there is a disconnect between academician, practitioner, and of course, bureaucrats. So you really got to get out of this bubble or whatever, wherever you are now in Sabajaya or in some little small universities, and experience life at this. And that is why I think that it's important for you to travel, you know. And I quite agree with Zain and of course Sharon, who has said it. And it's a bit sad for me that Sharon have to negotiate through all kinds of things because she doesn't want to lose her job, but I don't have to. But the fact that, we're not just talking about being tolerant. We're talking about awareness and not being judgmental and being accepting, and eventually reveling in multiculturalism, because it is really a resource. It is something wonderful. You don't want your garden to be so well organized like one of those Datings kind of garden. You want it to be full of beautiful things. And sometimes, I really admire my garden because I leave it really, open it up, because the nature's choreography is very, very interesting and it is dynamic. And to accept that, because of course it needs pruning, as what Zain would know, because in terms of landscaping, do you know that with all this digital thing, we have lost our listening capacity for the wisdom of people. People with the right knowledge are not being heard at the moment, Azik, because we are so, any statement from social media, we accept it. And then we're talking about, as it's not equal. People with wisdom has got to be listened. People with wisdom like Zain and Sharon, who has a more open view about the universal spirit, has got to be listened. Not just anyone who says little words in Twitter that is very big, destructive, and you give the same equal importance. So this is what I feel. Now, what is your question again? No, I'm just joking. But I hope you understand that I feel that multiculturalism is more or less, it should be, what Zain talked about identity, there's individual identities, there is communal identities, there is national identities. We function in many identities. Like even a male Muslim like me, what kind of identities? I am from the Rawal group, I'm not from the Minang group, I'm not from Kelantan, I'm not from Johor, now I'm a Sunni, I'm not a Shia. There's so many identities. What I like French food perhaps, I like this, so Malaysia, Azik, has been multiculturalism for centuries. it did not go through so much upheaval as what Zain said in terms of the American system, where it went through all kinds of processes where there is a kind of a reassessment of one's life, because they went through the World War badly. We didn't, but it doesn't mean that we didn't have this kind of I really think that the Malay supremacy was a very political kind of thing, but we did not go through as much as that, because Malaysia and this region is such a land of plenty. But the golden Chesapeake is really an entrepot of China and India and Mulaccas and the Nusantara, that it is not a salad bowl. It is a cauldron. It's a cauldron of mix, so that the changes within the cauldron, you cannot tell, okay, this is basically Chinese, it has been transformed. This is basically Indian, it's transformed. The Hinduism in Bali is not the Hinduism in India. All this is dynamic. So even when you talk about, I think religion, for example, has been one of the greatest divisive thing, because it did not reform according to the what is happening around. The universal spirit of the world is change. You can't have all those medieval and tribal values anymore. Take it out. This is what I mean. And let's face it. And so you young people, change it. We depend on you, because I really think that teachers are one of the most important profession. My father is from the STTI, the Specialist Teacher Institute, which had, Syed Ahmad Jamal, Yo Jin Ling, my father, so many of that generation. So they are all not even aware of Malay, Chinese, Indian. They take it all in a cauldron, as I said. This is what I mean. I think multiculturalism should start to be experiential. Go out and revel in the diversity of the garden, which is what Malaysia is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ramli, for the sharing that, in my opinion, is very detailed sharing in terms of multiculturalism, particularly in Malaysia. His suggestion that multiculturalism is not something that you only need to learn in university, but it is essential for individual, made me realize that living in a multicultural society is not about me, but it is about us, which is the unity. All right. So, dear fellow participants, we are now in the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat box or in the comment section for those who are watching from Facebook and YouTube live streaming. Our team will select a few questions and I will convey the selected question to our respected guest speakers. Okay, I will pose my question first. It is my personal question. I would like to pose the question to Mr. Zing. All right. I am so attracted to the toast salad metaphor that has been introduced to us by Mr. Zing. Well, as we know, when we're making a salad, there must be dressing or sauce in order to mix all of the ingredients, the veggies. So my question is, if we apply the metaphor in real life, what would be the sauce, the dressing that could mix all of the, the races in Malaysia or maybe in the, in the country?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to dodge it slightly by instead promoting my more preferred metaphor, which is the chunky stew. So, if we think about this idea, which I think is very close to the cauldron that Dr. Ramli was speaking of, yeah. If we think about the chunky stew, you know, I think it's important for us to recognize that our individual identities are meaningful to us. They can be quite meaningful to us, and therefore it's not wrong to want to preserve them or to be proud of them, and so on. So, in other words, we have the right and the human inclination to keep to what we to who we are, right? At the same time, there's sort of an opposing human nature, which is to mix and blend and to change and to transform. And so in this chunky stew metaphor, which I've spent a lot of time thinking about, you think about, for example, the pepper. You know, if you have the peppercorn, right? You throw that peppercorn into the soup, and it gives a slight flavor, you know, to the whole soup. But the peppercorn itself, it doesn't change, right? You can take it back out. The peppercorn is still as it was before. Right? Whereas if you have a chunk of meat, yeah, then that chunk of meat, it gives a lot of flavor to the soup, yeah, but the meat is still recognizable as the meat. Whereas in an American stew, of course, we have the potatoes, yeah, and the water, right? And those things, they mix together and they melt until you cannot find where is the potato anymore. You cannot take the water out anymore. It has completely vanished into the bowl. And so in the American perspective, I think about the English and German populations of the United States, who were sort of the early settlers of the United States. They set the tone, if you will, for the whole soup, right? They're the water, they're the potatoes, right? So that
now.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So so to get back to your question, then I think that, you know, what makes the American soup, you know, what it is the assimilation, right? I think that's the assimilation process, right? The potatoes that melt into the water completely. That's what we would call assimilation. The soup changes, but the original components that assimilate are lost into the soup, join the soup. And any other ingredient that you put in there is going to have a bit of that, right? It's going to have some of that flavor, right? So I think that's the role of the majority ethnic group, right? To come out from the analogy, that's the majority ethnic group, right? They provide the context of what's happening in that society, right? They're the sort of wider context. And in order for it to function well, they have to allow these other ingredients, the pepper and the meat and so on, they have to allow these other ingredients to come in, yeah, and add their contributions, right, to that soup. How much they want to melt into the soup or not is the choice of those individuals and those individual communities. Yeah? So I hope I'm making myself clear. In the United States, there are communities like, for example, Italians, right? We could say, who they came to the United States late, but they assimilated, or Polish people. My background is Polish. Polish people, they came to the United States. They assimilated completely into the society. They don't have any sense of a Polish identity anymore, or a Italian identity anymore. They're just, Americans. Right? Whereas other communities like the Jewish community, for example, the Jews in America are not the same as the Jews in Israel or Jews somewhere else, because they are in this big soup of American society, right? But they are still recognizably Jewish, right? You can still find a Jew here and a Jew there, right? But they have absorbed some of the flavor from the soup. They have given some of their own identity to the soup, while still keeping intact their own, what makes them special and different. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, very clear.
This is a very interesting topic because I like to talk about the tossed salad actually.
Sure, Dato'.
Because like you said, what you put as dressing is what you put in the education system, in the humanity, in the, are dealing at home, and eventually the chef, you can have two chefs, the way that they're going to toss the salad is very important. I've known a friend of mine who said that you can put two people, but how you toss the salad, one will toss it too much and one will just toss it right, will make that salad very, very different. So this is where we need leaders who can function and lead us with integrity and wisdom. That chef is the leaders that we put in power in order to be able to toss the salad so that all of us can enjoy it. This is one of it.
Yes, I agree with Dato'.
Will it be okay for me to give from a different perspective as well?
Sure, Dato'.
All of us are talking about salad and it's making me hungry, so I thought I should contribute something too. All right, my view of a salad bowl is completely different. I think in a salad bowl, you have different ingredients in it. You have the lettuce, you have the beetroot, you have the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the carrots. And when you mix it all, it is still so pretty. But what is so interesting to me is they still taste the same. The cucumber will still taste like the cucumber. The tomatoes will still give you that juicy, tender feeling. The lettuce will still give you that crunch. And that is how I see Malaysia is, you put us all in a bowl, yet we all still have our own distinctive, own uniqueness, own beauty to celebrate. But what's happening right now, in my opinion, is everybody is trying to find a place of who is supposed to be superior here, who is the most dominant one here. But everybody is forgetting that, hey, it's not about who is being superior, who is being dominant. It's about living together with the differences and making it to become a beautiful bowl of salad. Now, the question is, who is corrupting this dressing? That one I dare not answer. But yeah, I think it's important to realize how beautiful each of us are. So that's my different take of the salad bowl.
Right. Thank you, Doctor, for the interesting point of view. All right. So I will read the questions from our Facebook Live. So this is question for Mr. Zain. Assalamualaikum. My question is, how do you see the process of mingling in society? I will read again. Assalamualaikum. My question is, how do you see the process of mingling in society possible when socialization has heavily become virtualized and simulation?
Sorry, the last part one more time. When society has become what?
When mingling in society possible when socialization has heavily become virtualized and simulation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm very positive about that, right? If we talk about the spread of virtual interactions, right? The ability to interact with one another online, people who are far away from you. I think there's plenty of good in it. I don't think that even though I'm kind of an old guy, I don't think that I want to sort of reflexively condemn that. There's no substitute for human interaction, face-to-face human interaction. As a teacher, we know once classes go online, it's just not the same. Yeah, human interaction is so important. But in a situation where Our schools perhaps are not well integrated. Our communities are also perhaps not well integrated, right? The different zones and so on. So then being able to go online and interact with people from all kinds of different backgrounds, other countries and so on, I think is wonderful, and it plays a very big role in that kind of hybridity, you know, that kind of changing and mixing that we get. My daughters are into, you know, Japanese culture and Korean culture, which I could never have imagined, right? They didn't get that from Malaysia. They didn't get that from America. They got that from, you know, the internet, right? So, but I mean, that's good, right? That they're learning to speak Korean, and you know, there's all kinds of good things about it. So I think we have to make use of the tools that are available to us today, the good and the bad.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Zain, for the answer. All right. The next question will be posed to Dr. Sharon. So this person in Facebook asked that, Dr. Sharon, any activities that you would suggest promoting multiculturalism as an outreach program in a teacher teaching institute? Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. An outreach program. Well, an outreach program is something that I think it's very essential, especially being educators and teachers. We are given opportunities to travel and create this awareness. So I did one event with my students. I teach social linguistics, and we went to the Orang Asli community. And just being there, all I wanted was, can I know about your culture? Can I know about your folklore? Can you teach me a song? That was the only thing I wanted, but you should have seen the joy in their face of having someone who is willing to actually know about my culture. So as teachers, we are placed to make a change, to be different. All right. You can start outreach by going out and trying to understand different culture orientation, their songs, their dancing, because even that has a meaning, you know. And when we went to the Orang Asli, we had to learn a dance, but you know, it sounded very, you know, fierce. And I'm like asking, okay, when do you do this dance? This is the dance we perform at night to take away for evil spirit, to protect our children. If I had not gone back to appreciate their beauty and their uniqueness, I would not have been able to understand how beautiful that meaning is. So teachers and educators, there are so many opportunities to do outreach program. But before we go out, I think it's also important to find ways of how can I appreciate multiculturalism in my own class, in my own school, in my own town. Start inside first. Okay, schools, teachers, you can have opportunity to have a collection of books like I mentioned earlier, or make more effort to understand your pupils or your students' culture that they come from, if they come from a different culture. Like among the Indians, we have different sub-ethnicities itself. Among the Chinese, we also have different ethnicities itself. Take the trouble to tell me, tell me a bit about the Aka community. Do you speak a different language? If you're willing to take the trouble to understand your students, then we are opening ourselves to embracing richness of knowledge. The world, the sky is so vast. The question is, how many of us are willing to do it? It comes down to you again. Have motivational speakers or invite speakers from various backgrounds. Have projects that relates to culture differences or unique. Right now, everything is all portfolio based, right? Happening in school. Relate them. Now, the thing is, in every angle of your teaching and lesson plan, you have the opportunity to actually add on those elements. So start inside first. Start in your classroom. Make that change and go out.
All right. Thank you,
That's
Dr. Sharon. All right. Thank you, Dr. Sharon, for the, I must say, an enthusiasm answer Okay, so I must apologize that the question was from one of my lecturers. Okay.
Oopsie.
All right. So the next question, I will pose this question to Dato' Ramli. All right. This is also from our Facebook audience. That the question is, what are the known obstacles that Malaysia is currently experiencing in moving towards a better multicultural country?
Well, all of us have got this problem. I think America has got a problem, or India has got a problem, Malaysia has got a problem. I chose to be in Malaysia in spite of the fact that, I could have been in Australia or whatever it is. And I found that psychically the place suits me. It could be with Zain also, or Sharon or whatever it is. Some people migrated and found that it's not, psychically is not connected. So I found that Malaysia was psychically connected, and I'm extremely nationalistic, but I don't have to say it during a Merdeka Day or a National Day, but I love this country. So there are many ways in which we can do it, but there are many obstacles also. The obstacles are everywhere, and I think I was very lucky when I was young that I just followed my bliss. I followed my inclination, my heart. Talking about Sharon or Zain, when they were speaking, I didn't want to interrupt. But many times, there's so many things like Sharon was talking about, the outreach program, for example. I mean, look, arts and culture is everywhere. You can have a cooking lesson, or you can visit, all your local museums are empty. You don't go and visit that. All your parks, or you ask any of the kids, even the teachers, to understand how many plants they know that by name. 10 plants, they don't. In terms of landscape, these are all very interesting knowledge of our culture and multiculturalism. I think multiculturalism is part of the whole tenets of appreciating environment, being mindful, being basically civilized, and don't think that the concept of you don't all the time place the other. I was, when I was in my formative day, I just want to do it. I just explored everything in its totality, such that in this later period of my life, that everything becomes a tapestry and the picture is clearer for me. So the obstacles I took as part and parcel of my So when I first came to Malaysia from Australia, I was already very much a form artist. There were many, that was the time of the fundamentalist movement worldwide, that everything is conservatively going to the right, which means that people got a bit more conservative, especially after, we are now more conservative than what we are before. In terms of the flower powers and the Beatles and all that, they were much more crazier. And I think there's a swing now to being more, and I kind of understand that, but I didn't know that it's going to be this bad. But I keep on doing that because basically, I saw that a lot of the Malay forms have been sort of banned, for example, in Kelantan and Terengganu, and as a lot of the Malay forms. And when you talk about multiculturalism, as if that the Chinese and the Indians and the Dayaks and all the Sarawak people have been victimized, but I think the most victimized race is the Malay race, because the culture have been victimized. The culture has been cut off from them. They have been Arabatized at the moment. And this is a tragedy for me. I knew that. So I was one of the people, you asked me the obstacles, right? So I'm being frank. I don't have to be Sharon. So I did it. I fought it a lot of time. And this is why, this is one of the first times that you asked me to advise you, because otherwise there is a section of the community that is completely, I say that, it's divided. I have a salon of friends who are very international. And that doesn't mean that they are not real, they're not spiritual at all, They're very respectful of everything. They're respectful of environment, they're respectful of races, they go to their churches, temples, and mosques to pray. So this is, so they are a separate, almost a kind of a separate community. And when they want to deal with the institutions, they act differently, because they have to function like that. So I think what Sharon is saying, let's all now, because a time has come for us to make this change. Otherwise, we are stuck into this kind of still a kind of apartheid that is not healthy, and eventually the bubble will burst. And it is going to burst, and the pandemic has shown this to all of us. And I think we no more can we play this game anymore. By the way, I never liked the online thing, but it has taken a big that I'm able to communicate with so many people, but with not so much depth. Especially as an artist as I am, I need to see face to face to bring out the total potential of the person, because that person has to go through a lot of digestion. And this is what the Indian call Guru Shishya Parampara. To make an artist, a dancer, musicians, or whoever, even an environmentalist, you have to have a mentor, almost person-to-person mentor. So one of the outreach program is reach out to the minds. Who are the minds in the literature? Who are the minds in the music? Who are the minds in town planning? Who are the minds in all these places? Talk to them so that these people will be open. The mind will be open. Yeah, that's one of the things that I think we should do. So many things. The social sciences are important. Humanities are important. Arts and cultures represent the trace element and the vitamins you take in your nourishment, not just the carbohydrates, the proteins, these are the things.
All right. Thank you, Dato', for your detailed answer. All right, moving on to next question. This question will be posed to Dr. Sharon. Okay, so the question is, history has been written and rewritten. Do you all think a true understanding of Malaysian history is pertinent to promote multicultural thinking and embracement? This is from YouTube.
Well, I think history, the past that has happened, are some lessons that we should be actually embracing, remembering the fights, not the discrimination, remembering why we fought so hard to come and have 31st August 1957. People were willing to shed blood, regardless what skin color you were, regardless which area you came from. We all wanted one thing, to be free and to live together as a united society. Now, the current history I see has changed so much to what I used to learn in school and what I see in today's book. But I'm in no position to say that, because at the end of the day, it is governed by a body. But what I think it is very important is that all of us can be history makers. We can start today and change the history that was written a long time ago, take the lessons, the beauty that we can live in the present, and being history makers so that we can have a better generation. It is time to have a new generation, a new history written, and a new vision for this country. That would be from me.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sharon, for the detailed answer. That is my opinion. Interesting. I have a few another questions. This question will be posed to Mr. Zain. This is from one of the lecturer. Do you think that Malaysia has gone through the different paradigms to a certain extent?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I specifically spoke about the American perspective in order to shed light on perhaps what we've gone through here. But I think it is really important to note that each country really is unique. Each country has its own history. It has its own mixture of peoples. And so I wouldn't want to try to match up, particular paradigms, one for one with what has happened in Malaysia. I leave that as an exercise to the listener. What aspects of white supremacy, or what aspects of Jim Crow, or what aspects of the melting pot have happened here, or are being proposed here, or what. It's never going to be exactly the same. They say even, right, that history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, right? So there are echoes, there are parallels here and there, and I think anyone who has listened to the talk can see for themselves where there are similarities there or not. But I think the real key thing is that in order to move towards a better, more multicultural society, is to have a paradigm in mind that everyone can believe in and work towards. And so I hope that we can see something like that emerge in this generation. Okay, so I hope I haven't dodged the question too much there, but that's my honest opinion.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zain. All right. Okay. This will be the last question for today's session, and I will pose this question to Dr. Ramli. This is from one of our beloved lecturer that he asked that, Dr. Ramli, is it possible for the Teacher Training Institute to organize an educational trip to Sutra Academy as to appreciate arts and performance?
Well, most welcome to do that, because we often have a lot of students coming over. We deal with Orang Asli. We deal with many groups, all kinds of groups that come over from expat communities. Sutra is an open gate policies to everyone to come over, and I think that's fantastically good. That if the students can come over, we take in a lot of interns also to work with Sutra, those who are in performing arts who wants to learn something, and it's really I've just told another person said, we do. Lunchtime, I'm having lunch with Eric Perry's one of our top photographer, who is declining at the moment. He's already past 87, and what is going to happen with his archives? What is So there's so many things in Sutra that is happening that I can't even imagine. There's so much to learn, and I'm not an archivist because yesterday, for example, I had here an award ceremony for a very senior teacher from Temple of Fine Arts who had contributed so much in cultivating dance and dancers. And I said that, a lot of people see dancers. They don't see the teacher that has given the life to the dancer, because the dancer is on front. They don't realize that there is a teacher, there's a choreographer that has projected this entity on stage. So yeah, I think we really need to be out there in the field and not have a bubble somewhere there. So you're welcome to come in Sutra to really see how and a kind of NGO like Sutra Foundation functions to bring culture into the community, because I am one of the people that did not make profit of money and cents as the motivation of my work, and the fact that I survive is something quite a miracle, actually. So I really think so, because everyone thinks about how much money is. I mean, you talk about obstacles. Your previous question, I have never thought about money, but I'm fine, because if you come to my house or Sutra. And by the way, my house is going to be given to Sutra also as a foundation for the arts, as a kind of a residency program and all that kind of thing. You think that it's very rich, and it's not, because it is looked after with so much love. So this is not happening in Malaysia because we are not doing our works with passion. We are doing our work because we want to look at the money aspect all the time. Of course, the money aspect is very important, but we've forgotten this part of the passion where we are happy doing what we are doing. So I think this is an area that I think Sutra visit Sutra is good, because we look after the garden, we look after the exhibition, we look after the atmosphere with as much love as possible.
All right, thank you, Dato, for the answer. All right, thank you to all speakers for answering the questions. I hope our speakers' responses answered the audience's questions. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude our webinar session on the topic multiculturalism living towards a better society, we could all agree that every individual who holds a significant identity that identities themselves even when being mingled with other different identities. Just like what Dr. Sharon had mentioned, celebrating the richness of diversity where the citizen does not solely focus on Malays, Chinese, Indian, as there are other ethnicities and races as well. Therefore, it is important to embrace diversity, particularly in education, just like how we embrace our celebration each year. Chunky stew, a metaphor described by Mr. Zain, functions as a goal for multiculturalism, where every individual is to mix and mingle with our society as we combine, blend, change, and grow together. I believe that more cultural elements need to be assimilated into our education system, especially for our young generation who are not well exposed into enough to be more acknowledged and be prepared for their future times. As tolerant citizens, especially young people, Dr. Ramli mentioned that they play a significant role in changing society's perception and raising the awareness of multiculturalism in Malaysia. As you said, multiculturalism is experiential. Hence, go out and be diverse with the society. As the perks of 16 September, where we celebrate our Hari Malaysia annually, so much can be related, as it is a great time to display the colors of the Malaysian flag. A day when everyone can dress up in their different cultural attires to celebrate their unity in the midst of diversity. There is a sense of belonging and togetherness. I must say that our multiculturalism is something that we as Malaysians should be proud of. Right. It has been a great day and a wonderful morning with all of you. We truly appreciate the time you have given to us. We look forward to having this webinar with everyone again. And which on 40th September, we will be organizing another KPPD webinar that is highlighting education field in Malaysia. Please stay connected with by not leaving the Telegram group, as all information will be shared in the platform. We also would like to thank our guest speakers, Dr. Sharon, Mr. Zain, and Dr. Ramli, for the wonderful insights and knowledge they have shared with all of us. Thank you to our lecturers, Ms. Neni, Madam Nuriza, Ms. Nosida, and Dr. Madiana for guiding us and making this webinar a reality. All right, before we end this session, let's have a quick group photo. To all participants, you can turn on your camera now. We'll be having a photography session right now.
And Haziq, can I just leave a point before we actually have this photograph session? I think I just want to take this opportunity to highlight that strength lies in differences, not in similarities. And one quote or one mantra that I hold on to today is that this is from Maya Angelou, where she says, people will forget what you have said. People will forget what you did, but they will never forget the way you made them feel. And in diversity, it is important for us to be sensitive and to show and to appreciate how we should treat each other with respect and make them feel good. That is what love is. Just want to end that with that last mantra that I believe, and I hope that it will touch many hearts and give them this opportunity to think of how we can impact as an individual in the society we live in now. Thank you so much. And yes, happy for a group picture.
All right, thank you, Doctor. That is a great thought indeed. All right, we'll be proceed with our photography session. Please be ready and turn on your camera, please.
Where is the camera?
Yeah.
Just
gotta wait for the cue.
It will be screenshotted.
Oh.
Just turn on your camera and it will be okay. There will be 7 pages of this Zoom, so I will count 7 times. Okay. For the first page, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next page. 1, 2, 3. Another page. 1, 2, 3. Fourth page. 1, 2, 3. Fifth page. 1, 2, 3. Sixth page. 1, 2, 3. And the last page. 1, 2, 3.
My muscles are tired.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, as they say,
Thank
all
you.
good things must come to an end. This session might have ended, but the knowledge gained from this session will definitely be alive as we carry on with our lives. Focus on the positive and eliminate the negative. Again, thank you everyone for your participation. We would like to apologize for any shortcomings in organizing this webinar, and we are very look forward to receiving and welcoming any suggestion to improve our works. But before leaving the meeting, don't forget to fill in the Google form for your e-certificates. The link will be provided in the chat box and comment sections, or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Thank you once again, everyone. This has been your host, Isaac Daniel.
Bye and stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Doctor.
Zeng.
Thank
you very much.
Doctor, stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Zeng. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Ramli. Thank you, Doctor.
Dr.
you,
Sharon,
everyone, for
Dr. Ramli, it's a
joining.
pleasure.
Thank you,
Both
everyone.
again someday.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day ahead.
See you all again in the future.
Thank you so much, Haziq. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
You're
Alhamdulillah.
welcome.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so see you back on the 14th. Okay, thank you so much. Really, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, guys, thank you. I'm leaving now. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank
Keep
you,
Bye,
excited.
Miss.
Thank you, Miss.
Bye.
This
Thank
is like a
you.
very, very expensive experience for us.
Yes. Don't
Thank you,
forget.
everyone, for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you everyone for
Nice lah,
your
Haziq. Nice.
hard work. Okay, Aziz, that
Thank
was really, really smashing ending.